I had my eye on my sister's devoted suitor, young General Mu. He would tug on my hair bun and say with a laugh, "Do you even know what love between a man and a woman is? Go back to your mother and get some milk." I wouldn't go to my mother. But 8 years later, his gaze toward me had changed. My sister was as beautiful as a flower, and as the eldest legitimate daughter of the Prime Minister's residence, countless men in the capital admired her. She had just come of age, and suitors were already lining up at our door, nearly trampling the threshold of the Prime Minister's residence. When she went out with her mother to offer incense, her maids and attendants would make a fortune, simply because all those young noblemen wanted to send love letters and sappy poems to her through them. Sometimes, when they couldn't get close to my sister, they would try to curry favor with me. My sister and I were 8 years apart. I was the child of my mother's late years. When my sister was in the prime of her youth, I was still just a tiny little thing. Those people knew my sister doted on me and would often pretend to bring me delicious treats or fun toys just to strike up a conversation with my sister. My sister would always smile without a word and accept them for me, one by one. But I actually knew that those people were all wasting their efforts. Although my sister looked gentle and easygoing, she was actually very headstrong. She once said, "I wish to find one true heart to grow old together and never part." And the one who held her heart was the current emperor's fourth prince, Zhao Yin. No one else knew this, but I was well aware of it. Whenever she met with the fourth prince, she would always blush, and when they parted, she would stare blankly at his retreating figure. When there was no one around, she would hold me and ask softly, "Little Bao, would you like the fourth prince to be your brother-in-law one day?" Bao wants the fourth prince to be my brother-in-law. Every time this happened, she would give me a big kiss, and then pick me up and spin me around happily. Mu Changzhou is the legitimate son of the general. He has a pair of bright eyes, and he is quite skilled with a sword. Unlike the fourth prince's reserved and gentle nature, he is always straightforward, fiery like the scorching sun. After several attempts to show his affection went unanswered by my sister, he finally cornered my sister on the road while she was out flower viewing in the countryside. "Miss Gi, I truly admire you, and I wish to be joined with you for a lifetime. I wonder how you feel about this." My sister, both shy and flustered, turned bright red. How could he ask a young lady so bluntly? I couldn't stand seeing my sister so distressed. I trotted over on my short little legs, ran up to him, and put my hands on my hips. "My sister won't marry you. My brother-in-law is the fourth prince." My sister hurriedly reached out to cover my mouth, but I saw Mu Changzhou looking at me with a playful smirk. "Little girl, I didn't expect someone so young to already know how to climb the social ladder." My sister's face darkened when she heard that. "Master Mu, watch your tongue. Not everyone is as unscrupulous as you think." With that, she grabbed me, ordered the maid, and turned to leave. Seeing that he had angered my sister, Mu Changzhou hurried forward to stop us, trying to apologize. Seeing that he wouldn't stop pestering us, I pushed my sister away, ran up and kicked him. "Don't bully my sister," who knew his leg seemed like it was made of iron. I kicked him, and my foot hurt so much, but he didn't even budge. All the other men who admired my sister always thought about how to bribe and flatter me, only he wouldn't play along with me. The more I thought about it, the more wronged I felt. I rubbed my foot and started wailing. Now my sister was even angrier. She gathered me into her arms, and with an expressionless face gave Mu Changzhou an ultimatum. "Master Mu, if you don't leave now, I will call for help." Mu Changzhou returned empty-handed that day, but the next day, he begged his mother to come with him to apologize in person. Mother looked at him with a meaningful gaze, but my sister refused to come out to see him under any circumstances. Helpless, he had no choice but to leave dejectedly. That evening, Mother took my sister's hand and asked tentatively, "Qinger, why do you dislike Mu Changzhou so much?" In terms of family status, background, and character, Mu Changzhou is a perfect match for you. The Mu family is upright and honorable, and he clearly is a devoted man. He will surely treat you well after you marry him. "Qinger, will you really not consider this marriage proposal?" My sister lowered her head, silent, on the large bed behind them. I was groggily preparing to fall asleep. Hearing Mother's words, I suddenly sat up and loudly retorted, "Mu Changzhou isn't that great. He is a big jerk who made me cry." Mother was both annoyed and amused. She pulled me over and gently spanked my bottom twice. "Little Bao, you're talking nonsense again. What do you know?" My sister took the opportunity to lean on Mother's shoulder, acting coy. "Mother, look. Even Bao doesn't like him. We are destined not to be together." Mother had no choice but to smile and sigh. "Fine, fine. Forced fruit is never sweet. Consider it." Mother meddling. "Perhaps my brother-in-law-to-be, the fourth prince, heard about Mu Changzhou relentlessly pursuing my sister, and couldn't sit still either. I don't know how he convinced his birth mother, Consort Xian, and the emperor. 2 months later, the emperor issued an imperial decree, betrothing my sister to the fourth prince as his primary consort. On the day the decree was announced, my sister was so happy she could fly, but mother felt a trace of anxiety. The royal family is a place of endless trouble. Our Gu family is already at the height of imperial favor. Even without joining the royal family, we could live a life without worries. Why jump into these muddy waters? Besides, he is a prince. How could you possibly be the only one in his household? My sister wouldn't listen to a word of it. He made solemn promises. Mother, Yin and I truly love each other. He promised me he would marry only me. Mother sighed and shook her head, calling her a silly child. But the imperial decree had been issued. There was nothing left to say. Throughout the prime minister's residence, my sister was overjoyed, and mother was full of worry, while I was the only one plotting in my heart. I would personally tell that Mu fellow about my sister's engagement. If I couldn't make him die of anger, I'd at least make him cry. The chance for revenge I'd been plotting night and day had actually been delivered to my doorstep. It was only by chance that one day, when I was out with mother and sister to order jewelry, I happened to find out that young General Mu was drinking at the tavern right next door. I quietly had a servant take me there, wanting to have a good laugh at his expense. But the moment I saw him, I was shocked. It had only been 2 months, but the dashing young man had turned into a scruffy, disheveled mess. He was downing cup after cup of wine, oblivious to everything around him. I purposely said loudly, "My sister is marrying the fourth prince." "She isn't marrying you. Are you crying your eyes out with anger?" He looked up and saw it was me, and smiled drunkenly. "So it is you, little girl. You've come to laugh at me too." I held my nose and backed far away. "You smell absolutely terrible. No wonder my sister doesn't like you. Like this, nobody will ever like you." He sniffed at himself, and murmured, "No wonder she doesn't like me." Seeing him in such a decadent state, I suddenly felt a twinge of pity. "Stop drinking. My sister is just next door. If she sees you like this, she'll like you even less." The moment he heard sister, Mu Changzhou sobered up miraculously. He hurriedly tidied his clothes, but then stopped with a bitter smile. "No matter what, she will never like me." Just then, a familiar voice came from the street below. Gu Yunzheng. It was mother and sister, having finished picking out jewelry, coming out and looking for me. He looked down through the window, his gaze lingering on my sister, unwilling to look away for a long time. There was adoration in his eyes, despair, and bitterness, but I was too young back then to understand such complex eyes. Only the glisten that flashed in his eyes was deeply etched into my mind, so much so that later, whenever I saw sister and brother-in-law being affectionate, I would involuntarily think of that heartbroken young man. After sister and the fourth prince were married, they were indeed as sweet and loving as imagined. During their 3-day return visit, seeing how attentive and considerate Zhao Yin was to sister, father and mother were very satisfied, because they doted on me. Sister often invited me to play at the fourth prince's manor. Every time I went, I would be smothered by their displays of affection. Brother-in-law, fourth prince, I want to go out on the street to play. Brother-in-law would good-naturedly order the servants to prepare the carriage. He and sister would stroll through the streets holding hands, unafraid of the surprised gazes of the crowds. I insisted on holding sister's hand, and brother-in-law wouldn't be annoyed. He and sister would take me by the hands, one on each side, buying me candied hawthorns and sugar cakes. When peddlers complimented them on being a perfect match, the two of them would smile at each other across me. I was completely overwhelmed by their sweetness. Whenever this happened, I would sigh in my heart. I wonder if Mu Changzhou saw this. Would he once again sadly drown his sorrows in wine? Such good days lasted my sister only a year. A year later, the emperor issued another decree, ordering the fourth prince to take Wang Yanhui, daughter of Zuo Shilong, as his secondary consort. I heard that Wang Yanhui was the candidate consort Xian had originally favored to be the primary consort, but the fourth prince insisted on marrying my sister, so the two parties had to compromise. The day the imperial decree arrived, my sister was heartbroken. She quarreled with the fourth prince for the first time. In a fit of anger, she returned to our parents' home. The fourth prince followed right behind, but my sister refused to let him in. It was father who came out to smooth things over, saying she should have a few days of peace and quiet. Once she cleared her head, she would naturally go back. The fourth prince had no choice but to return to the prince's mansion, looking back every few steps, listening to the commotion. My sister wanted to run after him several times, but she forcibly held herself back. She collapsed into mother's arms, her face streaming with tears. "Silly child, he is a prince. How could he possibly only marry you? Even if he were willing, Consort D and the emperor would not allow it. Since you have married into the imperial family, you can no longer be this naive. I was a year older then and had more strength than before. Seeing my sister so sad, I clenched my fists, ready to go and settle the score with Zhao Yin. My sister grabbed me. "Bauer, don't go. Your brother-in-law, he has no choice in the matter." I thought this was already the greatest pain for my sister, little knowing that an even crueler imperial decree was already quietly on its way to the general's mansion. I felt stifled, so I took a servant and rode out on horseback to the peach blossom grove on the outskirts of the capital to clear my mind. There, I saw Mu Changzhou. He was practicing swordplay. Each strike and movement was like flowing water, exquisite and masterful. Having grown accustomed to gentle, refined men, I was captivated for the first time by his vigorous form. Yet, every strike of his was fierce and ruthless, as if harboring some pent-up frustration. For the last time, his sword's shadow spun in a circle, and the peach blossoms in the grove fell along with severed twigs. He panted and came to a stop amidst the sea of falling peach blossoms. He turned his head and saw me staring at him blankly, with tiny pink petals covering my shoulders and hair. "You've ruined all the flowers. What will my sister and I admire from now on?" After holding it in for so long, that was all I could foolishly manage to say. "Little girl, is your sister doing all right?" I have already heard about what happened. A sudden surge of resentment on behalf of my sister rose in my heart, so I pouted and said, "My sister is heartbroken. She cries at home every single day. That scoundrel Zhao Yin." Mu Changzhou punched the tree trunk beside him, sending another flurry of peach blossoms raining down on me. "Little girl, could you do me a favor?" Entranced by the look in his eyes, I did something foolish. When I lured my sister to the peach grove under the pretext of taking a walk, she saw Mu Changzhou waiting there for a long time. As soon as my sister saw him, she turned to leave, but he hurriedly blocked her path. "Qingyu, I heard he has betrayed you. Are you all right? How dare you? Is my given name something you are permitted to speak?" My sister shed her usual gentleness and said sharply, "You. Don't be angry. My heart is true to you. If he doesn't know how to cherish you, I am willing to." "Willing to what? Run away with me." My sister's cold voice cut like a knife. "I am a married woman. I am the fourth prince's wife, a position of status. You disregard morality and honor. You disregard my reputation. And you trick my younger sister into meeting you in private. For your own selfish desires, you have placed me in a dangerous position. Is this what you call a true heart?" Mu Changzhou panicked. "It was my rashness. I didn't think it through. I just couldn't bear to see you wronged. Today, just say the word, and I would cast aside my family and reputation just to take you away from here. But have you ever asked if I was willing? Let's be clear about this today. I have never for a single day had feelings for you, even if Zhao Yin has wronged me. That is a matter between us. What does it have to do with you? I am his lawful wife. I will not just enjoy the comfort he brings me, but also share in his responsibilities and weather the storms together. If you truly have any regard for me at all, then please never bother me again." After sister finished, she took my hand and left without looking back. I couldn't help but turn to look back, and saw Mu Changzhou behind us looking as if he'd been drained of all strength, collapsing onto his knees. His face was filled with sorrow and misery. In the carriage, I carefully tugged on sister's sleeve, asking her not to be angry. "Sister, I'm sorry." Sister kept a stern face for only a moment, before pulling me into her arms and sighing, "You little fool. You don't even know when you're being used." I hid in her arms and whispered, "But Mu Changzhou seems to truly like you, sister." Sister amusedly tapped my nose. "You little brat. What do you know about liking someone? Let sister tell you, if someone truly likes you, they will consider what is best for you, instead of putting you in danger due to a momentary impulse. Mu Changzhou is just young and reckless, and is unwilling to accept being rejected by me." I nodded, half understanding, then shook my head. After returning home, it was as if sister had suddenly come to terms with everything. She packed her things, ready to return to the fourth prince's manor. When brother-in-law heard, he immediately came scurrying over to pick her up. The two of them held hands, laughing and crying at the same time, making mother just shake her head. Not long after my sister returned, she began arranging for my brother-in-law to take a secondary wife. They say she is steady and magnanimous, handling everything with great care. Mother held me and sighed, "Your sister has truly matured. I just don't know when my little darling will grow up." Unlike my sister's gentle and steady nature, I had been a little rascal since childhood. Coupled with the large age gap between my sister and me, my whole family pampered and indulged me. Therefore, my parents did not constrain me with those rules and rituals. Mother doesn't ask you to bring honor to our family name, as long as you can be happy and live as you wish. So, when I proposed that I wanted to learn martial arts, my parents did not object. They even hired the best master for me. How were they to know that under the falling peach blossoms that day, the figure of the youth practicing swordplay had already become unforgettable in my heart? I wanted to be as free and uninhibited as him, dazzling as the scorching sun, as if only by doing so could I get a little closer to him. Another year passed. My sister became pregnant. The fourth prince's mansion was decorated with lanterns and festoons, and the Gu household was also full of joy. That year, Mu Changzhou refused an arranged marriage from his family once again, insisting on going to the northern border. On the day he left, I slipped away from home to see him off by myself. "Little girl, what are you doing here again?" he asked dismissively. After a year of diligent practice, I had shot up ahead in height and could finally reach his chest. Thinking that I might not see him again for a long time, I mustered all my courage. "Mu Changzhou, I fancy you. When I grow up, I want to marry you." He looked as if he had heard the greatest joke in the world, and his eyes widened all of a sudden. I was exactly 10 years old then, like other little girls my age. I wore my hair in 2 cute little buns. He reached out again and tugged on one of my buns. "Little girl," he said with a chuckle, "what do you know about matters of the heart? Go home and ask your mother for milk." I felt deeply humiliated. With reddened eyes, I cried out, "You're bullying me. I'm already 10 years old. I don't drink milk anymore. Just wait until I'm grown up. I'll come find you. I won't be any less impressive than my sister." Hearing the mention of my sister, he froze. A bitter tenderness immediately washed over his face. In my heart, no one can compare to her. He cast a nostalgic glance down the road I had just traveled, then turned and mounted his horse. "Little girl, head back now. Your family will be worried soon." With that, he rode off at a gallop without looking back. I stomped my foot hard behind him. "Mu Changzhou, just you wait. One day you will see me." By the time my little nephew was nearly 4, the threshold of the Prime Minister's estate was being worn down by matchmakers again. I had reached the age of maturity and had blossomed into a graceful young lady known throughout the capital. At 14, I was almost taller than my sister. After years of experience, my sister, now a mother, radiated the dignified and elegant aura of a princess. As for me, I was as bright as the morning sun, with a hearty laugh and a swift, spirited gait. The fourth prince and my sister often teased me. From afar, she looks like a refined lady, but up close, you see she is a whirlwind, and never still for a moment. I made a face at them and ignored them, but inwardly, I was quite pleased. All these years, I had unconsciously been imitating Mu Changzhou. I heard that he was invincible and valiant on the battlefield, having earned many glorious military achievements. He fought as if his life meant nothing, though he hadn't returned to the capital in a long time. The name of young General Mu was already known throughout the capital. Countless times I pictured him in my mind, the way he stood poised on his horse. I didn't want to be like those delicate, pampered noblewomen. I always felt that only a woman as bright and refreshing as a spring breeze would be a worthy match for him. I didn't care for those poetry collections or picture books. I only loved holding my military strategy books, unable to put them down. Haha. What kind of girl enjoys studying military strategy? Of course, he didn't know my true intentions. To be a general's wife in the future, I naturally had to be able to help him. I couldn't be a burden to him. Just as my sister supports my brother-in-law, I kept writing him letters, but I never received a reply. Yet, I was not discouraged. I kept on waiting for the day he no longer saw me as a mere child, waiting for the day I could stand side by side with him, waiting for him to arrive dressed in fine armor and riding his noble steed, with a grand wedding procession coming to take me as his bride. That scene had appeared in my dreams countless times. Because of this, I had refused almost everyone who came to ask for my hand. My parents thought I was still too young, and didn't think much of it, but the return of Mu Changzhou shattered all of that. That year, when he returned to the capital to report on his duties for the first time, after hearing the news, I was so excited I couldn't sleep for 3 nights. I dressed up in my finest clothes, and rode to the city gate to meet him. The harsh weather of the borderlands had carved his face into something even more resolute and mature. Those eyes, once bright as the stars, had also grown deep and unfathomable. "Mu Changzhou," I rode up to his side and flashed a brilliant smile. He looked at me, stunned for a moment, before realization dawned on him. "The little girl from the Guiyou family. Who are you calling a little girl? I have a name. Remember, my name is Gu Yunzheng. You've grown up, I see. It is just that your temper hasn't changed. I was stunned. So he still remembered all those little, trivial things from my past. I couldn't help but feel my face flush slightly. I mustered up all my courage. Mu Changzhou, that year when you left the capital, do you still remember what I said to you? I want to tell you that even today, my heart has not changed. I am just waiting for your reply. A flicker of unreadable emotion crossed his eyes. What words? I don't recall. He turned his horse around and rode past me. Go on back, little one. Your elders will be getting worried again. His guards followed suit. The cavalry kicked up a cloud of dust, leaving me behind. I angrily dug my heels into my horse's flanks. Mu Changzhou, you're bullying me again. I returned home fuming and immediately begged my mother, please go to the general's manor and propose. I like Mu Changzhou. My parents were shocked. Only then did they realize why I had rejected so many suitors, because I already had someone in my heart. Mu Changzhou, how could that work? He is nearly 10 years older than you, and he once sought your sister's hand. With so many fine young men in the capital, why must you set your heart on him, Bauer? I stamped my foot. I don't care. I am determined to marry him, or I will never marry at all. My parents had no choice but to call my sister home. When I saw her arrive, I remained sulky. Is my sister here today just to talk me out of it and convince me not to marry Mu Changzhou? It was my oversight. I never realized back then that you had set your heart on her. I still just thought of you as a little girl. I know. Sister, I'm not a child anymore. Please, I beg you, let me marry him. The reason I came today is to urge you to put these thoughts aside at once. I heard from your brother-in-law that His Majesty summoned Mu Changzhou back to the capital this time, with the intention of betrothing Princess Shaohua to him. I was struck as if by lightning. Princess Shaohua, how could I ever compete with her? Once the imperial decree is issued, there will be no room for change. I desperately grabbed hold of my sister's sleeve. Sister, please help me. Could you ask brother-in-law to plead my case before the emperor? His Majesty has this intention, firstly because he cherishes his talent, and secondly because of the military power in General Mu's hands. Only by marrying a princess can the emperor feel at ease. My head felt like it was splitting apart. My thoughts were in complete disarray. What about him? Is he really willing to marry a princess? Before my eyes, I saw him again, looking utterly heartbroken in the peach orchard as he watched us leave, and his words echoed in my ears once more. If you just say the word today, I would forsake my family and my reputation to take you far away. Is he still that deeply devoted young man who would risk everything for his beloved? But when I snuck out of the house to find him and asked him this question face to face, Mu Changzhou, would you still risk everything for your beloved? He didn't even lift his eyelids. Of course not. You're not your sister after all. By then, he had already exchanged his battle armor for fine robes with wide sleeves. His expression lacked some of that sharpness and instead seemed more indolent. He didn't seem like the passionate and defiant youth in my memories anymore. My heart ached intensely, yet I asked, unwilling to accept this, are you really willing to marry someone you don't love? He scoffed aloud. Who said I don't love the princess? Little girl, don't be so full of yourself. I suddenly felt a profound sense of grievance, but you clearly said that no one could compare to my sister. Don't you know that people change? Besides, I never promised you anything. It was nothing more than your own wishful thinking. Liar. Give me back all the letters I wrote you. I threw them away long ago. Why would I keep useless things? I returned home in a daze. Though I had always been strong and healthy, I suddenly fell ill. In my delirium, my mind was filled only with those cold, harsh words. It was nothing more than my own wishful thinking. Yes, all these years, it was just my own one-sided infatuation. He never even responded to me with a single word, sometimes conscious, sometimes drifting in and out of sleep. I only remember my parents' anxious faces and my sister in tears. After I recovered, I remained despondent. My sister tried many times to take me out to clear my head, but I refused every time. Until that day, when I heard Princess Shaohua would also be attending the banquet, I suddenly felt a spark of energy. I wanted to go see the woman who was about to become Mu Changzhou's wife, to see what she was really like. Before I could even go looking for her, Princess Shaohua approached us herself. Greetings, Fourth imperial sister-in-law. The princess gave a slight nod in acknowledgement. I heard that before you were married, you were the greatest beauty in the capital, with countless suitors at your feet. The comment was incredibly abrupt and rude. The people around us turned pale. Princess Shaohua was the daughter of the noble consort, one of the emperor's most favored daughters, known for her arrogant temper, and today she was clearly looking for trouble. Although my sister was annoyed inside, she remained composed on the surface. Princess, why listen to such nonsense, sir? You are of royal blood. Even if others speak wild gossip, you shouldn't be listening to them either. Listening to such talk once might be fine, but now that my father has appointed General Mu to be my riding instructor, and I've heard he's been deeply in love with you all these years, vowing never to marry anyone else, I am just deeply concerned. I was afraid of ruining a pair of lovebirds, so I came to ask. I couldn't help but feel righteous indignation. My sister is not that kind of person. Princess, do you have any proof for saying such things? Only then did Princess Shaohua notice me standing beside my sister. So, you are the second daughter of the Gu family. You are indeed a beauty. But there is a significant age gap between you and your sister, so you may not know the truth about what happened back then. How can you be so certain? You are clearly— My sister grabbed my arm. She turned cold and stern. Princess, please watch your words. I have been married to the fourth prince for nearly 8 years, managing his household, raising our children, and have never once been negligent. The princess and I are sisters-in-law. We should be on the same side, sharing in our honor and shame. But today, disregarding imperial dignity, you confront me with baseless rumors. I don't know where to begin to refute you, so I will have to go to the palace and ask the emperor, the empress, and the noble consort to decide and grant me justice. Princess Shaohua never expected that her gentle sister-in-law could be so formidable. Looking a bit uncomfortable, she said, I was merely curious, and asked out of idle chatter. Is it really worth getting so angry, sister-in-law? Forget it. Just pretend I never said anything. On the way back, my sister remained silent the entire time. I knew she was still angry about what happened today. Sister, she suddenly turned around and said to me seriously, Bauer, you must give up these thoughts about Mu Changzhou immediately. Not a whisper of this must get out. Princess Shaohua is so arrogant and overbearing and narrow-minded, she won't even let go of things from years ago. If she discovers your feelings for Mu Changzhou, I fear she will ensure you have no place in the capital. My heart sank deeper and deeper. Even though I knew my sister was right, I still felt a sense of reluctance in my heart. How could Princess Shaohua, a woman so willful, disrespectful of decorum, and vindictive, deserve someone as fine as him? My sister saw what I was thinking and helplessly stroked my hair. Bauer, with the age gap between you and Mu Changzhou, how can you truly understand him? It is nothing more than your imagination and obsession. I nestled in my sister's arms, my eyes closed, saying nothing. But in my heart, I kept repeating to myself, that is not true. He really is such a good person. But the very next day, news spread that Mu Changzhou had taken Princess Shaohua to visit Daju Temple. It was said that Mu Changzhou was extremely attentive, and the two appeared deeply affectionate. When my family and my sister heard this, they all breathed a sigh of relief. Yet I felt as if a heavy stone was blocking my heart, suffocating me. I slipped out of the Prime Minister's residence alone to visit my favorite weapon shop to see if they had any new items. Because I practiced martial arts over the years, I had no interest in jewelry or accessories, but instead I developed a love for weapons. I would commission new pieces every so often. As soon as the shopkeeper saw me, he eagerly brought out the short blade. Feeling troubled and annoyed, I took it in my hand and swung it around casually. I didn't notice someone entering behind me. With a flash of cold light, the man dodged quickly, the tip of the blade grazing his cheek. A few strands of hair fell to the floor. If I had been any slower, I would have sliced right through his nose. The shopkeeper turned pale with fright. I quickly apologized. The young man was tall and thin, with slightly tanned skin, but his eyes were piercingly bright. There was no look of fear on his face. This blade is certainly sharp. He looked somewhat pleased. He turned to the shopkeeper and asked, how much for this blade? I'll buy it for my sister. Oh. This blade was custom ordered by the second young lady Gi. If you like it, young master, you can order another one. How long would that take? Just 1 month. I'm only staying in the capital for a few days. It seems I won't be able to get it then. If you really like it, young master, I'll let you have this blade. Consider it my apology for earlier. Such a fine blade. Are you really willing to part with it, miss? That is nothing. I can just have them forge another one. I live in the capital anyway. The young man, excitedly, immediately had his attendant pay for it. He even said, "I'd like to buy another dagger inlaid with gemstones. I don't care for those flashy trinkets. A weapon should be practical first and foremost." He nodded in agreement and politely saw me out of the door. When I returned to the manor that day, my hands were empty, but my heart felt lighter. Perhaps it was because I had helped a stranger and received his grateful look in return, but that good mood didn't last long. Word came from the palace that Consort Xian had been demoted to the Cold Palace for a transgression, and the fourth prince caught in the fallout was confined to his residence. I snuck out to see my sister. That is when I learned it was the secondary consort, Wang Yanhui, who had secretly reported the fourth prince for forming cliques for personal gain, to conspire with Consort Xian, and harbor traitorous intentions. My sister cried and protested. "Your brother-in-law is an honest, straightforward man. How could he ever plot treason? This is clearly a trumped-up charge." My parents and I also found it preposterous. From our years of knowing and interacting with him, we all knew the fourth prince had no ambition, but was simply a man of refined literary tastes, a gentleman of integrity who shared a harmonious life with my sister. My sister had once confronted Wang Yanhui. "Why are you framing us? In all the years I've been married into the fourth prince's manor, has his highness ever looked at me with anything but indifference? You two are so deeply in love, yet you treat me as if I don't exist. You won't even give me a child. What hope is there in a life like this? It would be better if we all just went down together." My sister was speechless. Although the fourth prince was forced to marry Wang Yanhui to keep his promise to my sister, other than sleeping side by side fully clothed on their wedding night, he hadn't touched Wang Yanhui all these years. If they don't sleep together, how could there possibly be children? My sister and brother-in-law also felt guilty toward her, so they always treated her with the respect and courtesy due to her rank. But Wang Yanhui's heart had grown cold, and her desire for revenge only grew stronger. Because my brother-in-law loved poetry and literature, he had befriended many scholars and artists over the years, including quite a few government officials. In matters like this, once the seed of suspicion is planted, it is very hard to clear one's name. Why would Wang Yanhui suddenly, for no reason, cause such trouble? What do you think? Thinking about the role the imperial noble consort played in this, my sister and I both thought of the same person, Princess Shaohua. So, she never intended to let my sister go. Right at this critical moment, a marriage proposal delegation from the northern border nation of Bairong arrived in the capital. I heard the marriage alliance had been agreed upon by both sides long ago. This visit to the capital was for the official wedding. Suddenly, everyone understood. No wonder the emperor and the noble consort had so hastily, at the age of 20, given Princess Shaohua was betrothed to Mu Changzhou. She was the only unmarried princess of marriageable age in the palace. If not for this, she would likely have been sent far away for a political marriage. With that, all the noble families in the capital with daughters of marriageable age panicked, fearing that the delegation would take a fancy to them and have them sent to the borderlands in the princess's stead. In less than half a month, news spread that all these unmarried young women had become betrothed. My parents were worried about my sister and brother-in-law, while simultaneously busy arranging marriage prospects for me. My family was overwhelmed, and the Prime Minister's residence was in a state of anxiety. Yet I locked myself in my room for 3 whole days. 3 days later, I solemnly announced to my parents, "I am willing to take the princess's place and marry into the borderlands." Mother nearly fainted upon hearing this. "Even if you cannot marry Mu Changzhou, you must not ruin yourself like this. What does this make of your parents and family?" Father, mother, if I were to say this has nothing to do with Mu Changzhou, would you believe me? The fourth prince and my sister are facing a great disaster. Once the charge of treason is confirmed, it is likely the Prime Minister's residence will not be able to escape involvement. If the Prime Minister's residence takes the initiative to offer a marriage for peace now and resolves the court's urgent crisis, we can offset our faults with this merit. Only then can the fourth prince's household be safe and the Prime Minister's residence be safe. Mother pulled me into an embrace, weeping uncontrollably. "You and your sister are both the apples of my eye. How could a mother, for the sake of one daughter, sacrifice another?" I forcibly held back the tears in my eyes. Daughter is not doing this only for my sister. This is a matter of national duty. As a subject of great Yu, I am willing to make this sacrifice. Our breadth of vision and insight are far inferior to Bauer's. To have a daughter such as this is the fortune of my Gu family, and the fortune of great Yu. On that day, in the imperial court, father petitioned the emperor stating that the Gu family has a daughter named Yunfeng, who is willing to take the princess's place in marriage to Bairong. Minister Gu, your daughter possesses such a noble spirit. What reward does the Gu family desire? Feel free to speak. My daughter says this is for the greater good of the nation. As a citizen of Dayu, It is only right to share the burdens of the nation and the emperor without any selfish motives whatsoever. As for the matter your majesty mentioned, this humble subject understands. But concerning the matter of the fourth prince, I leave it entirely to your majesty's wise judgment. Your subject dares not interfere. I beg your majesty not to doubt the sincere intentions of your subject and his daughter. While the emperor was comforted, he felt a hint of shame. To have doubted the Gu family's intentions at such a critical moment did seem a bit petty. A few days later, Gu Yunzheng was bestowed the title of Princess Chang'ing. To be wed to the crown prince of northern Rong, Huyanji, my marriage alliance was set in stone. Unexpectedly, after the news was announced, the first person to oppose it was Mu Changzhou. That day, he rode his horse at full speed to the Gu residence, pleading with the servants at the gate several times for me to come out and see him. His eyes were filled with anxiety and pain. Why? He blurted out, without any preamble, the moment we met. Though I was surprised, I told him the truth. To save my sister and brother-in-law. You're lying. You're obviously just acting out of spite. You've been this stubborn since you were little. A marriage alliance is a major state affair. How could you be so willful? Quickly, tell your father to ask the emperor to retract the decree. I found it inconceivable. You were raised in the capital. Do you truly not know that imperial decrees cannot be retracted? This is madness, absolute madness. Even if I rejected you, you shouldn't treat your own future like a joke. And your family is just letting you do this? He thought I had decided on this marriage to spite him. My heart stirred, and I pretended to joke. You're in such a rush. Could it be that you regret rejecting me back then? He was momentarily speechless. After a long pause, he said, Don't get the wrong idea. I just don't want anyone ruining their life because of me. My expression turned cold. Rest assured, this has nothing to do with you. It is a decision I've made after careful consideration for both the country and my family. There isn't a shred of spite in it. I know you are frustrated. Regarding your sister, I will find a way to intervene. A political marriage is not a child's game. Thinking about how my sister's family suffered because of him, I felt my anger boil over. Is your way of intervening to simply curry favor with Princess Shaohua? If it weren't for him, my sister and brother-in-law would never have had to suffer such unjust accusations. He clenched his fist suddenly and gritted his teeth, saying, How could you possibly know the depths of my intentions? So it seems I am the one who is being inconsiderate of you. If you truly wish to save me, there is actually a way. It only depends on whether you are willing to agree. What method? Marry me. Then Princess Shaohua can go for the diplomatic marriage. That should have been her responsibility in the first place. Once she is gone, and naturally no one would give my sister or brother-in-law any trouble. Wouldn't that be the perfect solution for everyone? Bauer, do you think everyone is like you, able to act so recklessly? I am no longer the same person as that Mu Changzhou who would risk everything for love. I have my own concerns and considerations. I raised my hand to stop him from continuing. My expression was calm and indifferent, but my heart grew colder bit by bit. Times have changed. That young master of the Mu family, who swore under a rain of peach blossoms that he would take his beloved and fly far away, is gone forever. My dreams are completely shattered. My heart no longer ripples with emotion. Thank you for your concern, young General Mu, but my mind is made up. From this day on, may the mountains be high and the waters flow far. We shall never meet again. The day I departed the capital, it was an unprecedented spectacle. The marriage alliance between Dayu and Northern Rong was of great importance, meant to prevent war at the borders and spare the people from suffering. The imperial court treated it with the utmost seriousness, with the emperor himself leading the civil and military officials to see me off. I was dressed in a grand red wedding gown, wearing a phoenix coronet adorned with 100 birds, the standard regalia for a grand princess of the Dayu royal family. Princess Shaohua stood beside the noble consort, her eyes flickering with an inscrutable expression. The day I was bestowed the title of princess, the fourth prince was released from confinement, and consort Xian was let out of the cold palace, restored to her rank. Although the Gu family hadn't said a word, the emperor wouldn't be so heartless as to break a loyal subject's heart. Besides, a bride for a marriage alliance could hardly have a brother-in-law who was a traitor. When I paid my respects before Princess Shaohua, she sneered coldly. Don't think that just because the emperor gave you a title, you are a real princess. In the end, you are nothing but a fake replacing me in this marriage alliance. Princess Shaohua was extremely domineering and couldn't bear to see anyone outshine her, even though she knew I was taking her place and that I should keep a low profile. She still couldn't resist provoking me. Seeing my silence, she became even more aggressive. To save your sister, you're willing to marry far away to someone from Northern Rong. You sisters are truly ungrateful. Do you really think that by sacrificing yourself, your sister will be safe and sound? The fourth prince is nothing but a useless royal, and I will remain in the capital, with plenty of time to play with them. I was young and hot-headed, and had no intention of swallowing my pride. So, I spoke out loudly. Princess Shaohua, watch your words. Northern Rong is an allied state of Dayu. Today, His Majesty has honored us with his presence, specifically to celebrate the goodwill between these two groups of warriors. As a princess, how could you possibly call the Northern Rong Northern Barbarians? As soon as these words were spoken, the royals and noble families nearby all wore expressions of alarm. Although everyone knows Princess Shaohua is arrogant, they did not know she was this reckless, so lacking in decorum, speaking so rudely on such a solemn occasion. The princess's mother, the noble consort, also wore a very dark expression. The empress, having long known Shaohua's character, rebuked her with a cold face. This is no place for your temper tantrums. If any word of your misbehavior reaches the emperor's ears, can you bear the blame for ruining the marriage alliance? Princess Shaohua bit her lip hard. This was the first time she had been scolded in public. She wanted to lash out, but the noble consort gave her a sharp tug. Only then did she notice the unkind gazes of everyone around her, and she forced herself to hold it in. She had nearly twisted her handkerchief to shreds, but I didn't think that was enough. Why should Princess Shaohua get to reap the rewards and still threaten me in front of everyone? I lifted the tassels obscuring my face and revealed my entire face to the crowd. A low gasp of astonishment rippled through the crowd. Princess Chang'ing is truly a great beauty. What a pity. It is such a waste for those foreigners to have her. Under the stunned gazes of the crowd, I first bowed to the emperor, then knelt before my parents. With a trembling voice, I said, "Since ancient times, loyalty and filial piety cannot both be upheld. I do not know when I will return from this journey. I implore you both to take care of your health and not to worry about me." My parents were streaming with tears and tremblingly helped me up. My gaze met my sister's behind them. My sister was not here as the fourth prince's consort, but had come to see me off as the eldest daughter of the Gu family. She was frail and gaunt, looking as if she might collapse at any moment. Ever since the day she found out I had volunteered for the peace marriage, she hadn't gone a single day without shedding tears of self-reproach. But no matter how he tried to persuade her, it couldn't make me change my mind. When he saw me look over, he gave a slight nod. I knew he was telling me, "Don't worry, he would take care of my parents." By now, the onlookers were already whispering among themselves. What, is Princess Chang'ing not the emperor's daughter? I turned around and bowed deeply to all the citizens of the capital who had come to see me off. Though I am not the true princess supported by the people, yet the emperor's grace is profound, granting me the title of princess. As a subject of Great Yu, I am willing to put the nation's righteousness first, and repay Great Yu's kindness in raising me with this very body. I, Gu Yunzheng of the Gu family, hereby bid farewell to the elders and kin of my homeland. The crowd erupted in an uproar. Some wiped away tears moved. Others were filled with righteous indignation. So Princess Chang'ing is actually Chancellor Gu's biological daughter. She is not a real princess. Doesn't the emperor have an unmarried princess? What is her name, Shaohua? He can't bear to part with his own daughter, so he makes someone else's daughter go in her place? Sheesh. Keep your voice down. Do you want to die? What are you afraid of? The princess is supported by the people, yet when it matters most, she won't go for the marriage alliance, but lets someone else's daughter go instead. He takes all the comfort for himself, but makes others suffer the consequences for him, and we're not even allowed to talk about it. The emperor's expression was grim at this moment. Looking at Princess Shaohua, she was cowering sheepishly behind the noble consort, terrified of being noticed. She was that true princess who knew only how to enjoy luxury. Meanwhile, the empress wore a look of watching a show unfold. My identity was now public knowledge, and along with it, my connection to the fourth prince's household was revealed. In the future, if Princess Shaohua wants to target my sister, she'll have to fear public opinion, won't she? Having done all I could, I lifted my leg to step into the wedding palanquin, when suddenly, I heard someone in the crowd shout, "Miss Guo shows great integrity. You are rightfully the Chang'ing Princess of Dayu." Respectfully seeing off Princess Chang'ing, Respectfully seeing off Princess Changming, my tears instantly blurred my vision. An immense surge of heroism rose in my heart. Through my tears, I saw a familiar figure in the crowd. Mu Changzhou's face was deathly pale, his jaw clenched tightly, his eyes fixed unblinkingly on me, with an indescribably complex expression. The Bairong wedding delegation was waiting outside the city. I stepped out of the wedding sedan chair and boarded the spacious carriage. As soon as I was seated, an envoy respectfully handed in a large wooden box. "Your Highness, our crown prince specifically instructed me to deliver this to you. He knows you have never left Dayu before, and that this journey might make you uneasy. He hopes this item can offer you some comfort. He asked me to tell you. Though Bairong is far away, it is not entirely full of strangers. This crown prince is quite thoughtful." I opened the box with curiosity. Inside lay a pair of daggers. One dagger had a handle made of red gold, engraved with a phoenix and Paulonia pattern. It was exceptionally exquisite. The other one had a simple design. My eyes lit up. I picked up the simple dagger and examined it for a long moment. The image of the young man I met at the weapons shop appeared before me. It was him. The envoy glanced at my expression and let out a sigh of relief. He smiled and said, "The crown prince said, he will be waiting for you at the border. He will accompany you back to the Bairong capital." A thread of warmth melted into my heart, diluting the sorrow I felt from just bidding farewell to my parents and homeland. A smile involuntarily tugged at the corners of my mouth, and I said softly, "The crown prince is very thoughtful. He certainly did put thought into this. Except for the handles, the two daggers. The rest of them are exactly identical. The blades are sharp, gleaming with a cold light. The new blade was clearly forged as a replica of the other. It had only been a month since I first met him." Calculating the time, after finding out from somewhere that it was I who was sent for the marriage alliance, he had immediately commissioned the other one as a betrothal gift. In his eyes, I am not a tool for a political marriage, but a living, breathing person. For this alone, I have developed some affection for him. Gu Yunzheng. I silently repeated his name in my heart and found myself actually looking forward to meeting him. Not long after the marriage caravan left the capital, I was in the carriage with my eyes closed, resting. Suddenly, I heard a commotion outside. Then, the rumbling sound of horses' hooves approached from afar. The servant accompanying me reported that the young General Mu had arrived with his men. Why has he come? No sooner had I spoken than I heard a familiar voice outside the carriage. "I wish to escort the princess all the way to Northern Rong." I raised an eyebrow. "Did the emperor send you?" That can't be right. Shouldn't he be staying in the capital at this time, preparing for his wedding with Princess Shaohua? Sure enough, the voice outside the carriage faltered. "I came of my own volition. It won't be a bother. I will return to the capital afterward to accept my punishment." What a strange man. When I wanted him to stay, he made every excuse to refuse. Now that I no longer need him, he defies imperial orders to follow me. Thinking of Princess Shaohua's face, I couldn't help but feel a headache. My original purpose for this marriage alliance, all my hard work and plotting, might very well be ruined because of Mu Changzhou's actions. Thinking of this, not only was I not the slightest bit moved by his rash arrival, but I was actually speechless. "Young General Mu, please return. His Majesty has already arranged a dedicated honor guard, as well as the Northern Rong envoy escort. I will be perfectly fine. If you leave the capital without permission, Princess Shaohua will be quite concerned." My intention was to remind him to be mindful of his station and not cause me any more trouble. Who would have thought he would just sigh? "Are you still angry with me? Can we not speak of her? I only wish to safely escort the princess to the Great Yu border." Is he incapable of understanding plain language, or does he think far too highly of himself? I felt a surge of irritation and couldn't help but say coldly, "Does young General Mu not trust the guards appointed by His Majesty? By coming here without authorization, people might mistake it for me being spoiled and arrogant, and lacking in propriety. Did you even stop to consider, young General Mu, whether I wanted this when you acted on your own?" His face was a mixture of shock and shame. He slowly lowered his head. "I know you refuse to forgive me. It is my fault. I was reckless." I stopped paying him any mind and ordered the carriage caravan to move on, leaving him far behind in our wake. The carriage traveled for several days. I felt like I was being shaken to pieces. Yet, Mu Changzhou had not left. Instead, he remained stuck at a distance behind us, following the entire way. I couldn't be bothered to tangle with him any further. The scenery outside the carriage window was growing increasingly desolate. A sense of sorrow and bleakness at the thought of leaving returned to my heart. Just then, I suddenly heard the Northern Rong marriage envoy cry out in surprise, "Your Highness, The crown prince has come to receive us. We hadn't even reached the border yet. How could he be so bold as to come here? I immediately lifted the carriage curtain. In the dust raised by horses in the distance, a troop of riders was galloping toward us. The man in the lead pulled his horse to a halt barely 10 paces from my carriage, pulled on the reins to stop his horse, clad in shining armor and military attire. He looked remarkably dashing, the great Northern Rong royal emblem, and a sword that highlights his noble status. He was a different person from the simple young man I had met that day. Only those bright eyes were exactly as I remembered them. As our eyes met, he smiled and said, "We're almost at the border here. It is quite desolate. I was worried you wouldn't be used to it, so I rode ahead a few stages to meet you. I hope you don't mind my abruptness." He did not refer to himself as this prince, but as I, and he didn't call me princess, but you. It made me feel so much closer to him all of a sudden. I asked him half jokingly, "Since you knew my identity all along, didn't you mind that I'm not the real princess?" Ha ha ha, I did mind at first. But once I knew it was you, I didn't mind anymore. My face flushed red. He asked softly again, "Did you receive those short blades? They were meant to be a welcome gift for you. But I was afraid that due to the long journey and the sorrow of leaving your parents and kin, I instructed the envoy to give them to you early. How was your journey?" I smiled and mimicked his words. I was indeed sorrowful, but after I knew it was you, I wasn't so sad anymore. Hearing this, he blushed too. He nimbly vaulted off his horse, walked a few steps to my carriage, straightened his clothes, and bowed to me formally. Although this was our second meeting, we had yet to exchange our names. "I am Gu Yunzheng of Northern Rong." "Greetings, miss." I hurriedly returned the salute just as solemnly. "I am Gu Yunzheng, the youngest daughter of Grand Chancellor Gu of the Great Yu." "Greetings, your highness." Hu Yanji looked at me earnestly. "I am honored that you, Lady Gu Yu, do not reject me, and I am most fortunate to be able to take such a beauty as my wife. If you are willing, you may call me AG, and I shall call you Yunzheng. Would that be all right?" AG, Yunzheng. I savored those two names repeatedly, filled with joy in my heart. They sounded not like a crown prince from a foreign land whom I had never met, but rather like a childhood sweetheart from next door. Life's encounters are truly bizarre. Some people are right beside you, yet remain as unreachable as the moon in the sky, while others, though meeting for the first time, feel so compatible as if you've known them for ages. The gloom that had gathered in my heart these past few days vanished instantly. I just wanted to get out of the carriage and stretch my body happily. Hoyanji seemed to have read my mind. He ordered someone to bring over a horse. That day at the armory, I could tell that Yunzheng was skilled in martial arts. Surely, riding a horse is nothing to you. You must be feeling stifled these past few days. Would you be willing to ride horses with me to Berong? Is that allowed? My eyes lit up. These days, sitting in that carriage, my bones were almost starting to rust. But before I left, the protocol officer gave me stern warnings, charging me over and over to represent the dignity of Dayu and to never lose decorum. So I had to keep my patience and sit primly. He winked at me. Anyway, I was the one who broke the rules first by entering Dayu's borders privately to collect you. So when the time comes, no one can blame you. I couldn't help but jump up immediately. There were riding clothes in my luggage, but getting them out would be too much trouble. To think Huyanji had even prepared for this. Shedding the heavy princess ceremonial attire and changing into light riding gear, he and I sat on horseback, standing side by side. Mu Changzhou, who was following far behind, must have already seen the situation here, but because it was too far, I could not see his expression. I only know he stood there, not moving an inch. Now he should finally be heading back to the capital, right? Hu Yanji reached out his hand, making a gesture for me to proceed. I took the lead and galloped away. The pasture behind me slowly became a small black dot and soon vanished from sight. Traveling along with Huyanji, stopping and going as we pleased, we admired the moon over the frontier and witnessed the grandeur of the vast desert. In just a few days of travel, I saw scenery I had never seen in my entire life. By the time we neared the capital of Northern Rong, I was surprised to realize I had spent a whole month with him. In this month of being together day and night, the last bit of unfamiliarity between us had completely vanished. In its place was mutual admiration and an unspoken understanding. The night before we entered the capital, he and I had to briefly part ways. Tomorrow, you will be escorted into the capital. I will go to the capital first to make preparations, and then I will come to marry you. He looked at me with an affectionate gaze. I have already arranged everything. You just need to enter the capital with peace of mind. My father the emperor and mother the empress are wonderful people. You will surely like them. I gave a gentle nod, feeling an unprecedented sense of peace and contentment in my heart. Before dawn the next day, I was attended to by palace maids to bathe and dress, putting on the princess's wedding dress again, and fastening on the phoenix crown. By the time it was fully bright outside, the northern gate was thrown wide open. The Northern Rong royal wedding procession marched grandly out of the city gates. Huyanji was dressed in the formal attire of the crown prince, wearing the crown prince's golden crown, personally arriving at the city gate to welcome me. Then, the great Yu princess's wedding procession slowly entered the city. Throughout the capital, colorful flags were fluttering, and ceremonial music filled the air. All the citizens of the city, along with the royal nobility, had all come to witness the ceremony. This royal wedding was both magnificent and solemn. After paying respects to the heavens and my ancestors, I was presented with the golden seal and scroll of the crown princess, and stood beside Huyanji before the emperor and empress of Bairong, kneeling to perform the rites. With this, the ceremony was complete. I had officially become Huyanji's wife. The crown princess of Bairong, the crown prince's residence, was decorated with lanterns and streamers, filled with joy. In the bridal chamber, the dragon and phoenix candles burned all night long, and Huyanji and I hardly slept a wink. Our month of knowing and understanding each other had already made us inseparable, unable to part for even a moment. Waking up the next morning, when our eyes met, my face turned beet red with shyness. He laughed and said, "Is Her Highness the Crown Princess tired? Do you still have the strength to spar with your husband? To stretch your limbs a bit? Since when is a martial artist so delicate?" Though my body was a bit weary, my spirit was quite lively. Huyanji took from a brocade box that pair of daggers intended as a first meeting gift. He wielded the one that used to be mine, and I held the phoenix blade, trading blows back and forth. We sparred for dozens of rounds. The servants in the residence stopped in their tracks, sighing in admiration. The crown prince and crown princess are truly a perfect match, perfectly matched in skill. Suddenly, a mischievous voice came from behind. "Oh, nice. Big brother uses what he promised to give me to win favor with his wife. Don't mind this little girl. She is my younger sister. You can just call her Duo." So this was Huyanji's sister, the princess of Bairong, Huyan Duo. She ran up completely unafraid and tugged on my sleeve. "Sister-in-law, Big brother originally said he would give me that blade, but as soon as he knew he was marrying you, he took it back overnight. He won't even let me touch it." Huyanji was a bit embarrassed by his sister's reveal. He shot her a glare, telling her not to talk nonsense, but Huyan Duo just made a face at him, watching the princess acting spoiled without a care in the world. I felt as if I were seeing my younger self back when I was with the fourth prince and my sister. I couldn't help but smile. I pulled Huyan Duo closer and told her with a smile that I had specially prepared several exquisite and handy weapons for her. She was overjoyed. "Sister-in-law treats me the best," watching her skip along behind me. Huyanji's expression softened even more. Life after marriage was incredibly busy. As the crown princess, I naturally couldn't just hide away in the mansion, living my own little life. I accompanied Huyanji to inspect the common people, learning about their hardships. The land of Bairong was barren and often suffered from drought. I took the seeds suitable for planting brought from Daiyu and distributed them, and instructed the agricultural officials I brought along to teach the Bairong people how to plant. Hand in hand, I supervised personally and brought craftsmen from Daiyu skilled in water conservancy to help the local people build water storage and irrigation projects. On the journey to the marriage alliance with Huyanji, the customs and conditions I saw along the way gave me another idea to strengthen the country and enrich the people. I submitted a formal memorial to the Daiyu Imperial Court, requesting to expand trade routes and open more post stations to facilitate traveling merchants. My request was soon approved. The people now had hope for the future, and my reputation in Bairong grew day by day. Huyanji grew increasingly fond of me. He said jokingly, "Yunzheng, the people now say you are a celestial fairy descended to earth." I felt shy at his praise. Remembering what my sister once told me, I replied earnestly, "We are husband and wife, one in body and soul. I cannot just enjoy the honor you bring me. I must also share in our common responsibilities." His gaze on me grew deeper. "Yunzheng, you were truly sent to my side by the heavens." The crown prince and I lived in perfect harmony. News of my popularity among the people reached Daiyu. My parents and sister were filled with immense relief and joy. Suddenly, one day, my sister wrote to tell me that Mu Changzhou had refused to marry Princess Shaohua and insisted on being stationed at the northern border. His actions angered both the emperor and the princess. The emperor threatened to strip him of his military command, but Mu Changzhou remained unmoved, preferring to guard the border as an ordinary soldier. I heard Princess Shaohua cried and begged, used threats and inducements, and turned the Mu household upside down. Even my sister was nearly caught in the crossfire. In the end, she still couldn't hold Mu Changzhou back. Mu Changzhou was demoted several ranks and left the capital for the border as a centurion. My sister's letter warned me to be very careful of Princess Shaohua's revenge, because the town where Mu Changzhou is stationed is a key border fortress that faces northern Rong from afar. Plus, given how Mu Changzhou previously escorted me to my marriage, Princess Shaohua will surely hold me accountable for it. If this had been in the past, I don't know how moved I would have been. I certainly would have supported him without hesitation, but now all I feel is endless trouble. He's old enough to be a father. Why is Mu Changzhou still so impulsive, not considering the consequences? Moreover, it would be one thing if he were just courting his own death, but he always drags innocent people into it. Before, it was my sister, and now it is me. Once all the halos vanished, I realized the man in my heart, once perfect as a god, was just an ordinary man. Ultimately, it is because I no longer love him. Mu Changzhou's actions were already insane enough, but I didn't expect Princess Shaohua to be even crazier. She actually followed him all the way to the border city, pestering him every single day, demanding an explanation, making the border garrison commanders live in constant fear and exhausted by dealing with her, fearing that any accidental slight against this precious royal lady would be their ruin. I had thought that since I was now in Beirong, no matter how willful Princess Shaohua was, she couldn't do anything to me. But I had underestimated her obsession and madness. That day, when I went out alone, someone holding a token from the Gu estate lured me into a secluded alleyway. The person opposite was wrapped in a black cloak. After taking off the tightly wrapped hood, a familiar face was revealed: Princess Shaohua. I was greatly shocked. She had actually crossed the border on her own and snuck into the capital of Beirong. Why have you come here? Gu Yunzheng. Did you think that by hiding in Beirong, this princess could do nothing to you? I truly underestimated you before. So, you are just like your sister, a vile seductress who bewitches the hearts of men. I have come here today to expose your true colors in front of everyone and bring about your ruin. She brandished a letter. The paper had already yellowed, but the handwriting was all too familiar. It was one of those letters I had once written to Mu Changzhou, so he hadn't destroyed these letters, and they had ultimately fallen into Princess Shaohua's hands. My breathing hitched. Although I firmly believe in the affection and trust between Huyanji and me, still, no one could be completely indifferent to their wife having once admired another man, especially when he is the crown prince of Beirong. What exactly do you want? I am going to deliver these letters into Huyanji's hands and let him see how his beloved crown princess addressed another man and spoke such disgusting vile words. I remembered the contents of those letters very clearly. Although they poured out my heart, they still remained proper and restrained, and were not as sordid as she claimed. Even so, I still gripped my hands tightly in anxiety. By doing this, aside from venting your own spite, how does this benefit the friendship between our two nations? The imperial court and the people have sacrificed so much for this. Do you, as a princess, truly not care at all? Stop putting on this righteous act. You are nothing more than a stand-in for me, a tool for the political marriage. Don't actually think of yourself as a real princess. I'm telling you today, if I am not at peace, no one else will be either. Someone suddenly leaped out from behind the princess. It was Mu Changzhou, disguised. Princess, stop this. This is all my fault. It has nothing to do with anyone else. I begged you, and you ignored me. Now, the moment it involves this seductress, you are suddenly willing to take such a huge risk, and you still claim there is nothing between you two. The moment I saw Mu Changzhou, I knew we were in trouble. His actions will only provoke Shaohua further. Go. You must leave. Princess Shaohua laughed out loud. It is too late. I intentionally revealed my tracks, just to see if he would follow. Since you care about her so much, no one is leaving here unscathed today. A few letters alone aren't enough to convince Huyanji. But if he sees you two together with his own eyes, sees Mu Changzhou risking his life for you, what will he think then? Just then, a cold voice came from behind us. Princess Shaohua, you went to such great lengths to lure me here, just to let me see you lose your mind like this. I whipped my head around. Huyanji was standing there behind me. Seeing him, a wave of grievance unexpectedly welled up in my heart, and I involuntarily walked toward him. He took my hand naturally and cast a reassuring glance at me. How affectionate. But does the crown prince know that your beloved crown princess has another man in her heart? Here is both the witness and the evidence. Your Highness, if you don't believe it, see for yourself. Huyanji took the letters, glanced at them. Is this all? Was it really worth it for Princess Shaohua to go to such lengths? To come all the way to my barong? You don't mind? Princess Shaohua, from the moment you left the Dayu border, you have already been under my watch. Whatever you have done, I know it all. This trick of framing others doesn't always work. In my eyes, Hu Yanji had always been a gentle and understanding gentleman, but at this moment, the aura of control and ruthlessness about him was laid bare. This place is filthy. There is no need to entangle yourself with a madwoman any longer. Let's not let it sully your eyes. Follow me back to the residence. Mu Changzhou, from behind, called out to Hu Yanji, who was about to leave with me. I watched Bauer grow up. From now on, I entrust him to you. You must treat him well. Hu Yanji turned his head. My own wife needs no concern from an outsider like you. You should spend more time reflecting on yourself, bringing her so much trouble. This isn't deep affection. It is incompetence. Mu Changzhou stared, speechless. I suddenly thought of what my sister once said. If someone truly cares for you, they will consider everything for you, instead of acting on impulse and putting you in danger. Just like Hu Yanji, before I joined Bairong, he would find ways to soothe my emotions, create opportunities for me to get to know him, and settle my family, making us more comfortable with each other. Instead of like Mu Changzhou, whose seemingly passionate recklessness has repeatedly dragged me into trouble. My sister's judgment of character was far superior to mine. Back then, he had already seen that Mu Changzhou's character truly could not be considered a good man. I thought this matter would just pass. Hu Yanji didn't hold Princess Shaohua accountable for her crime of sneaking into Northern Rong. She could have quieted down for a while. Who would have thought she was so deranged that after returning to Dayu, she actually reported to the emperor that Northern Rong had sent spies into the border city of Dayu and that they had even harmed her. Her story was full of holes, but for some reason, the emperor actually believed it and became suspicious of Northern Rong. He sent reinforcements to the border, confronting Northern Rong, ignoring the trust and relations just established between the two countries. In the capital, because I am the crown princess of Northern Rong, Princess Shaohua managed to persuade the emperor to put the Gu family and the fourth prince's residence under house arrest to prevent them from colluding with Northern Rong. As the situation at the border grew tense, Northern Rong also began to feel uneasy. Members of the royal family started to question me. I knew that once war broke out between the two countries, I would be the princess of an enemy state and might even be used as a sacrifice for the war banners. Only Hu Yanji and Hu Yanduo protected me. They constantly comforted me, promising they would keep me safe. But I knew Hu Yanji, as the crown prince of Northern Rong, the future heir to the throne, too many eyes were on him. Every move he made had to be cautious. On one side was my homeland and family. On the other, the husband I deeply loved. I dared not imagine the scene of them slaughtering each other. How would I conduct myself then? Hu Yanji saw my torment. He pulled me into his arms and sighed. With tears in my eyes, I looked at him. AG, if you cannot stop the war between our countries, I will end my own life on the battlefield. Even if I cannot stop it, at least let me find peace. You fool, what will your death solve? The biggest problem now is the crazed Princess Shaohua, and your emperor who is willing to believe a madwoman's words. Even my sister, my brother-in-law, and my parents have been put under house arrest on trumped-up charges. Princess Shaohua is resorting to such unscrupulous methods just to satisfy her personal vendetta, and the emperor who prefers listening to biased advice. If this continues, the great Yu will be finished. He narrowed his eyes deep in thought. I hear that your brother-in-law, the fourth prince, is a gentleman of integrity. Who truly cares for the suffering of the people? Since the emperor of the Great Yu is so incompetent, perhaps it is time for someone else to take his place. I looked at him, startled. AG, what are you planning to do? Yunzheng, trust me. Northern Rong desires peace more than any other nation. I know full well that once war breaks out, only the common people will suffer. Whether they are Great Yu people or Northern Rong people, they should not be sacrifices for power. I am their crown prince. I would never act rashly. After a long moment, I nodded, trusting him. Are you trying to make up for your regrets regarding me, or for your unrequited love for my sister? He was stunned. If you had said these things to me in the past, I surely would have been overjoyed and would have left with you without a second thought. But it is a pity that I met Hu Yanji and only then learned what it truly means to be loved. Mu Changzhou's expression changed abruptly. He looked at me in disbelief. Have you even considered what would happen if I left with you today? What would happen? In Northern Rong, The charge that I am a spy from an enemy state would be confirmed. Hu Yanji would be criticized for his poor judgment in people, and even have his capabilities as the crown prince questioned. The situation between our two nations is not yet set in stone. If I were to flee, I would inevitably become the catalyst for war. At that time, the people would be plunged into misery, and the country would be devastated. I would be the one responsible for ruining the nation. Once war begins, how could Princess Shaohua possibly spare my family? The Gu family and my sister's family would be dead in an instant. With every word I spoke, Mu Changzhou's face turned paler. I only wanted to save you. I didn't think that much. You indeed didn't think that much. You were only thinking of making up for your own regrets, but never truly considered the well-being of others. You were like this with my sister. And you are the same with me now. Bauer, he couldn't help but take a step back. Why must you think of me that way? I came to save you with nothing but sincerity. I looked at him calmly. Thank you for your good intentions, but today I might as well tell you my own heart. I did once harbor feelings for you, and I even thought I would marry none other than you, but now I know. That was merely a foolish, youthful obsession and imagination about love. He looked at me, his eyes full of regret and sorrow. AG trusts me unconditionally, and I trust him too. I will not abandon him when disaster strikes, nor will I let him be disappointed or hurt. Mu Changzhou stepped back a few paces, heartbroken and speechless. Do you really trust him that much? Yes, I was exceptionally firm. I know that no matter when or where, AG is someone I can trust. The situation at the border grew increasingly tense, and Huyanji also became very busy. I often wouldn't see him for days on end. I stayed inside the crown prince's residence, and those outside had no idea what had happened to me. One night, as I was about to blow out the lamp to sleep, I suddenly saw a silhouette outside the window. Bauer, it is me. Are you all right? It was Mu Changzhou. Why has he come again? I hurried to open the window, only to see him in night traveler clothes, crouched on the windowsill. Upon seeing me, his brows relaxed. I'm so glad you're okay. I thought. You thought what? I looked at him warily, seeing no one was around to notice. He lightly leaped into the room. I thought the Northern Wrong would give you trouble. Rumors outside say Huyanji has imprisoned you. I am perfectly fine, and no one has imprisoned me. But you. At such a critical time, should you not be stationed at the border city? What are you doing coming all the way to Northern Wrong? I'm here to rescue you. Once war breaks out, as a princess of Dayu, you will surely be used as a sacrifice for their banners. You should leave with me right now. He reached out to pull me, but I took a step back. Leave with you. And then what comes next? And then... He clearly hadn't thought that far ahead. Never mind, we can't worry about that now. Let's just get out of here first. Princess Shaohua hates me to the core. If I defect from Northern Wrong, I can't go back to Dayu either. Are you expecting me to hide in the deep mountains with you? Why not? You wouldn't have to be some princess, and I wouldn't be a useless general constantly undermined by others. I have the strength, and I can certainly support you. Seeing my furrowed brows and my silence, he urged desperately, Bauer. Back when you came to beg me not to marry Shaohua, I had no choice. There were extenuating circumstances, but I regretted it deeply afterward. Watching you board the bridal sedan for the marriage alliance, I hated myself for being so indecisive, for not being able to protect you. Latter, knowing Huyanji treated you well, I vowed to silently watch over you for the rest of my life. As long as you are living well, I have no regrets. But now that he cannot protect you, I can no longer watch you suffer and do nothing. His eyes were bright and clear, and his face radiated a spirit I had never seen before. Bauer, come with me. This time, I will make up for all the past mistakes and regrets. He looked at me full of expectation. Yet, I remained calm and composed, completely unmoved. The standoff between Dayu and Northern Wrong had been deadlocked for a year. Throughout this year, Dayu had made no further moves. The reason was simple. The Emperor of Dayu was elderly, and the struggle for succession within the royal family had reached a fever pitch. The princes fought each other, only to fall one by one, under various charges. Some were beheaded, others exiled to remote lands. In the end, it was the unassuming fourth prince who ended up reaping the rewards. Princess Shaohua, due to her old grudges against the fourth prince, had tried to harm him several times, but was caught in the act. She was now stripped of her princess title, reduced to commoner status, and imprisoned in the capital, never to stir up trouble again. And my brother-in-law, the fourth prince, thanks to his reputation among the upright civil officials, and his political philosophy of enriching the country and nurturing the people, was supported by many in the imperial court. This was something something he himself had never imagined. The twists and dangers during this period were beyond words. Even though I was far away in northern Rong, I knew everything clearly because my husband, Crown Prince Gu Yunzheng of northern Rong, had been secretly supporting the fourth prince all along. It would not be an exaggeration to say that he used the full power of northern Rong to push the fourth prince to the throne. What surprised me most was my brother. In this treacherous struggle, he showed unprecedented calmness, decisiveness, and cunning. He once sent me a secret letter. In the past, I would have done anything to protect him and the Gu family. Now, it was his turn. Rather than be a fish on the chopping block, it is better to fight back with all one's might. Even if I die in the end, I will have no regrets. I was deeply shaken. It made me even more determined to help Gu Yunzheng and support the fourth prince in his bid for the throne. In the end, my sister won. She stood side by side with my brother-in-law as empress. Throughout this life and death struggle, her bond with him grew even deeper. So much so that after he ascended the throne, when the court officials submitted memorials urging him to fill the harem, he refused them all. I have my empress, and that is enough for this life. The first thing the fourth prince did after his coronation was to take the empress on a tour of the border to reward the armies. The border became a scene of grand celebration, inviting the crown prince and crown princess of Beirong to join the festivities. They signed an agreement on trade and educational exchange between the two nations, making civilian travel and relations between Dayu and Beirong far more fluid and unobstructed. In truth, my brother-in-law and Gu Yunzheng had another personal motive for doing this. They wanted to create an opportunity for our sisters to reunite. When we met, my sister and I wept in each other's arms. She patted my hair comfortingly. Sister's little Bao has finally grown up. You are now a crown princess capable of standing on your own. When Gu Yunzheng one day rules the world, you will surely be a fine empress who loves her people as her own children. I nodded vigorously. With you as my role model, I will surely be a good empress in the future. My sister looked past me and smiled demurely. He treats you so well. When I return, I will tell our parents so they can rest easy. I turned my head and saw Gu Yunzheng and my brother-in-law standing side by side not far behind. They smiled slightly when they saw me looking. I knew that everything before my eyes was inseparable from his painstaking planning. I remember during the most difficult times of the succession struggle, Gu Yunzheng even risked his life several times to sneak into Dayu to help my brother-in-law. I asked him, "It is so dangerous. Why would you do it?" Regardless of who ascends the throne in the future, there will always be uncertainty for you. Only if your brother-in-law ascends the throne and your sister becomes the empress of Great Yu will you be truly safe. Afraid I would feel guilty, he quickly added, "It isn't entirely for you. It is also to ensure peace for Northern Rong. At least while you two sisters are in power, the two nations will never go to war. Only then can the people recover and prosper." I hugged him tightly. "To have you protect me with all your heart is the greatest blessing of my life." After this thrilling struggle ended, I could finally stand beside him with pride and accept the congratulations of the court and the people. Although I was in the border city, I never saw Mu Changzhou again. I heard that on the day he learned my brother-in-law had taken the throne, he requested to be posted to the southern frontier. Before he left, he entrusted someone with a message for me. He said, "Only now do I understand what you meant. The person you trusted did not let you down. I am not his equal." The messenger was confused, but only I understood what he meant. I heard he used his military merits in the southern frontier to earn a minor position, and then brought his elderly parents from the capital to live with him. Back then, because of the incident where Princess Shaohua refused the marriage, she had treated Mu Changzhou's family very harshly. Unable to get to him, she vented her anger on the Mu family's parents, causing the Mu family to lose their former glory, living a very miserable life. Now, Mu Changzhou finally realized what consequences his impulsiveness had caused for his family. He was willing to spend the rest of his life making amends. This, in its own way, was his own form of penance. People always reach maturity eventually. It was just that his maturity came too late. Too much has been missed. I wonder if he feels any regret. The foolish obsessions and the past from my youth have dissipated like the wind. Nowadays, I no longer have the capacity to dwell on other things. Not long after my brother-in-law ascended the throne, the emperor of Beirong Bairong passed away, Huyanji officially became the new emperor of Bairong, and I became the empress of Bairong. Bairong is a small nation, where the empress is permitted to participate in politics and assist in governance. He and I support each other, with clear divisions of responsibility, striving to transform Bairong into a prosperous and wealthy nation. During the reigns of my brother-in-law and Huyanji, it was a time when Dayu and Bairong were on the best of terms, the most prosperous, and when exchanges between our peoples were most frequent. The world credits my sister and me, praising us as the twin empresses of the North and South, leaving our names in history.